Well, we're here in Calgary. I'm a speaker at the Generation Screwed event. That's a great name for it. It's sponsored by the Taxpayers Federation, and so is my friend John Carpay. Good to catch up with you in person.
Good to see you, Ezra. Welcome to Calgary.
Well, thanks. You know, this used to be my home. It's where my heart is. I still have my Calgary phone number, which irritates everybody in Toronto because they got to dial me here. Anyways, it's a great get-together, and I'm talking about rebuilding the right and stuff like that, but you're here to talk about your public interest law firm, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Give us 30 seconds on your speech today, and then I want to ask you about the case you're working on called Voices of the Nations in Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto. So first, tell me what you're going to say here in your speech.
I'm going to talk about the soft tyranny of democratic despotism. I'm going to refer back to Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote a brilliant book 175 years ago, warning about some of the dangers that can happen in democracy, how we can lose our freedoms gradually, slowly, and how we can even lose our freedoms while still having elections once every 4 years. And he warns against apathy, and he warns against a very gentle, mild, but all-pervasive totalitarian state that pretends to look after your own good.
Isn't that amazing? He was so perceptive. He was a Frenchman who came to America, and his observations were so keen back then, and they are even applicable today, and they're timeless. It's a whole philosophy. Let's move from the philosophical to the practical. Last time we spoke, you were retained by a Christian organization called Voices of the Nations. They wanted to use Toronto's Yonge Dundas Square. That's a public square. We've had issues there before. We had a Christian pastor named Reverend David Lynn. He got charged with illegal busking, they said, because he was preaching. We hired another lawyer named Sonia Schickman for that case. Now, you are representing Voices of the Nations. Give us a quick factual recap, and where's the case now?
Well, all kinds of people use Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto at different times. It's been used by Hare Krishnas and Hindus and Muslims, gays and lesbians, people who advocate for legalizing marijuana. And for all those cases, the city has never tried to apply or enforce this policy they have against proselytizing.
That basically means advocating, hey, come and think like us. That's really what proselytizing means, advocating your philosophy, right?
And the city of Toronto pretends that we can respect freedom of expression and ban proselytizing, and we can do those two things. But that's like asking for cool sunshine or dry water or efficient government.
But it's even worse than that, because they actually never apply this to the groups you mentioned, which are all about, I mean, Muslims and Hare Krishna and Hindus. Those are all faiths that advocate a worldview. Even you could say gay and lesbian activism, you could say marijuana activism is proselytizing. It's not religious, but those are all advocacy things.
Proselytizing, anytime you say something and try to persuade somebody else to come over to your way of thinking or your way of living, your way of believing, it's proselytizing. So the city should ditch the policy. That's not up for debate on the hearing on Tuesday the 10th.
Okay, so slow down for a second. So you sent that demand letter to the city saying, back down, let Voices of the Nation go. They held firm, so now you're going to a hearing?
Yes.
And who is the hearing in front of? Is it a court or is it a panel of bureaucrats?
It's bureaucrats. It's the Yonge Dundas Board of Management, and I believe it includes city councillor and some other people. And so we're told that we have an opportunity to put forward our case and ask for the decision to be reversed.
So you're sending a lawyer in there. Who's your Toronto lawyer?
Well, our lawyer handling the file is Marty Moore. However, I'm going to be the one in Toronto on December 10th because I've got other things to do in Toronto.
Well, I'm glad you'll be there too, and Marty Moore sounds like a really good egg. So this is like a quasi-court. They're not real judges, they're not even lawyers, but they're going to have their judge hats on. Have you submitted a legal brief?
We only got the city's papers just on this past...
Oh, so the city's fighting this?
Well, they've written a letter accusing Voices of the Nations of all sorts of things and going into details about...
So the city's fighting. So it's not just the board being, snooty on their own. The city of Toronto, their law department is pushing back? Did I get that right?
Well, their law department has written a letter explaining and justifying their decision.
Now, hang on. Didn't John Tory, the mayor, say, well, I don't really like them treating Voices of the Nations this way? So he's saying, he's giving out signals that he's for freedom, while his City of Toronto legal beagles are sending letters justifying it. Am I getting this right?
That's it in a nutshell. I'm not sure if they're going to have a lawyer there advocating for the decision not to be reversed, but they've certainly made their case in a letter to try to justify their decision. And it's written by the same lady who told Voices of the Nation in a telephone conversation that if you say praise the Lord, or there's
that
no
Natalie Bellman. Yeah, I remember we have the here just to remind our listeners. It's incredible. Here, just listen to this tape. Listen to this tape for 30 seconds. Listen to this lady on a recorded phone call saying you guys aren't allowed. Here, take a quick listen.
Okay, well, I've already advised Peter that we're not going to be permitting you guys this year for next year because of the proselytizing on the square. And that's a big issue for us. I know that in the past years we've had discussions with you, or at least my predecessor did.
Oh, really?
Had meetings with Peter with regards to the proselytizing, and outlined very specifically what was allowed and what is not allowed on the square, and that was not adhered to this year.
Oh, Natalie, sorry, just to clarify, did we prophesize this year at the event?
Yes.
We did?
Yes. Your performers did.
One of our performers did? Okay, in terms of prophesizing, what do you mean? Like, do we mean like speaking, like, or just singing? Or...
Well, it doesn't matter if it's speaking or it's singing. Either way, if you're praising Jesus and praise the Lord and there's no God like Jehovah, that type of thing, that's proselytizing.
So, John, that same lady is writing the letter on behalf of the city. Oh, my God.
Well, she also doesn't mention that phone conversation, of course.
Oh, I wouldn't think so, yeah.
There's now she's come out with all kinds of other allegations of, misbehavior in the last 4 years and that sort of thing.
She's making it up as she goes. Is this open? Like, can we send a camera to this hearing?
I'm not 100% sure. Probably yes.
Okay, because this just gets me so mad. I've been to Yonge Dundas. I know it's like a Canadian version of Times Square. Everyone's allowed. I go there for the hot dog carts, duh. But there's everything. There's a booth there with free Muslim Qurans all the time. There's everything there, and the one group not allowed there is this infuriates me. You're still the lawyers of record. You're fighting hard. We were very glad. I love, one of my favorite things to do is to raise dough for these fights. Did you get the check I mailed you about 2 weeks ago?
Yes, and thank you.
Okay, don't thank me. Thank our viewers. I chipped in 100, but all the rest came from our folks. Do you need more dough?
It's going to be an ongoing legal fight. If the decision is not reversed, then we're going to take the City of Toronto to court. And, we've got 2 full-time staff lawyers.
I know, that's expensive. I know you guys don't charge corporate rates. You do this on
salary. Yeah. Lawyers are working on salary, but it's a lot cheaper to have 2 lawyers on salary than to be paying a big law firm $500.
Absolutely, but you still got to pay people a salary. Yes. You got to pay what's called disbursements. That's everything from photocopying and messengers. Let's see what we can do. We sent you a check. It was such a pleasure to sign, folks. We're going to cover this thing. We're going to send a camera in if we can. Even if we can't, we'll be right outside. You can let us know. We want to help you keep fighting it. If you go to antichristian.ca, because that's what these guys are. They're anti-Christian. We hear the word anti-Semitic or Islamophobic or whatever. I think the real phobia in Toronto is antichristian.ca. If you chip in there, we'll cut another check to John's group, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. John, last words. Are you hopeful? Like, we fought another fight there with another public interest lawyer. And you and I fought together in Nanaimo. We fought a lot of fights. Are you hopeful here? Do you think if we shine the light of public scrutiny, that'll make them back down, or do they seem dead set on this? Last word to you.
I'm hopeful that they will reverse it, but I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it either.
I tell you, I wish there were 100 John Carpays out there. This country would be a lot freer, but the one John Carpay we got, that's worth a lot. It's great to see you, my friend, and working with you is one of the great pleasures of being at The Rebel.
Well, I appreciate your support and your involvement, and I appreciate the viewers and their support for what we're doing to preserve freedom.
Well, right on. That's what we're about. We're here in Calgary. Thanks for joining, and go to antichristian.ca. Bye-bye.